housing crisis.
The traffic is really bad.
Getting places and affordable housing.
Well, the housing crisis is pretty big at the moment.
That's a major one, especially in the long term rather than renting.
Also, like, not being responsible in terms of sustainability as well. I think that needs to be addressed more.
Traffic.
You go first.
I've noticed that the housing situation's been interesting.
Do you want to go first?
Like I just saw on the radio, like the average price for a house in Auckland is over $1 million.
I have no idea.
I think probably the housing market. It's a big issue.
Like traffic issues.
Probably house prices.
Like just so much congestion all the time. So hard to get anywhere.
Homelessness.
It's ridiculous.
The cost of living is just getting way too high.
Fee of house is very expensive.
Performing on a global scale.
Property.
That's a good question. I think it's like the price of the place people live.
The amount of people coming in, like all the housing, all the education for everyone.
Housing.
Yeah, the prices of houses are too high.
Our public transport
Yeah.
is pretty bad.
Transport.
Yeah.
I would say housing and transport.
Public transport.
Yeah. Transport.
Sorry, what?
I would probably have to say the housing crisis.
Housing crisis, for sure.
Like, generally, like, what do you mean?
Yeah, and along with that, probably transportation issues as well.
Like, just like Auckland, like, what do you think is Auckland's biggest issue at the moment?
Road rage.
No, my heart and my welcome to IRL, Orcon IRL Vote Auckland. Thank you for coming out tonight despite the weather. And might I add, missing the most shocking and powerful television of the year. But enough about Grey's Anatomy. What we've sought to do tonight is to bring in some of the more interesting candidates in this year's local body elections, including a couple who were on the list, who weren't on the list initially, but contacted me to declare that they too were interesting and ought to be included. You know who you are, and you're in. I'm actually very pleased to have 4 candidates tonight seeking election or re-election to local boards. We don't talk about local boards. They're not very sexy, but in some ways I think they're actually the key to succeeding in the super city. They're actually the contact with the people. I'm also very, very pleased to welcome 95 BFM alumnus, Charlotte Ryan, as this month's co-host. Please give Charlotte a warm round of applause.
Thank you for having me, Russell.
So are you all boned up on your local body politics?
Oh, I've really tried. I mean, like many people, it hasn't interested me a lot.
No, but I will be disappointed if you haven't ranked your district health board candidates from 1 to whatever.
But no, this last couple of weeks, actually last couple of months have been fascinating. I'm on board for tonight. I'm excited. We've got this box of questions, or it's not full yet of questions, but this is for you to put questions into that we will ask the candidates too, right?
Yeah, and it's going to live over there on that table, so there's some light. And what will happen is at the end, we're going to gather all the candidates over there, and they're going to answer your questions. We will filter them, so stupid ones won't get asked. Well, maybe they will.
Yeah.
Maybe they will. I'd also like to welcome this month's guest celebrity DJ, Anthonie Tonnon.
Yeah!
Tonno's here because he's written more songs about local government than any other artist in New Zealand music history. 2? Yeah, well, maybe more. Thanks as ever to Hugh Sunday and his team for the stream, to Matthew and all at Golden Dawn for the hospitality, and to Quentin and Sophia at Orcon for making it all possible. They keep coming to the party and I'm really, really grateful. There is also, of course, a hashtag Orcon IRL. So feel free to,
Tweet away.
Hashtag away. Take bets on how long that rain cover's going to last. Right, well, I think we should start. It's time to discuss the terrifying dystopian future in which we will no longer be able to blame Len Brown for everything. What are we going to do? Well, hopefully our first panel will be able to tell us. Charlotte, you may go sit down and enjoy your glass of wine. Panellists, please join me. Wherever you like. If I could ask you to be quite close and loud on your mic. Efeso, you know how to work a mic stand, don't you, bro? You might have to bring that one up towards yourself. They do call him the big guy. Right, while that's happening, let me introduce our panellists. Peter Haynes actually stepped in at the last moment very kindly in place of Councillor Kathy Casey, who is suffering from the flu and thus sounds even more Scottish than usual. Peter is the chair of the Albert Eden Local Board, and he's also seeking election to council proper. So we'll talk about that.
Can I say something quickly?
Yes.
Are there any members of the Republican Party here? Okay, well, if there are, we don't want anybody spreading rumours about Kathy's imminent demise. All she has is a cold, okay? Got that? Right, thank you.
Next to Peter, Paula Bold-Wilson, who may not be that familiar to some of you from the central city. She first hit the headlines as the scourge of the synthetic weed retailers and is now one of an unprecedented 4 Māori candidates seeking election to the Henderson Massey Local Board. And I think if that's the start of a trend, then it's a good thing, because Māori representation in Auckland local government is something that we've needed to fix, and I'm glad this is happening. And on the end here, Efeso Collins, the chair of the Otara Papatoetoe Local Board, who is also this year seeking election as a councillor in the Manukau ward. And I believe he's the only candidate tonight who has a campaign song. Perhaps we can hear a little bit of that.
Efeso, yeah, yeah. Efeso, yeah, yeah. Efeso, yeah, yeah. Efeso, yeah, yeah. If you wanna vote for a party, Labour Party is the party. Efeso, yeah, yeah. If you wanna vote for a party, Labour Party is the party. Efeso, yeah, yeah. Yeah, first up, Efeso Collins, yes, he is the man. If Efeso Collins cannot do it, then nobody can. His name is from the Bible, the book of Ephesians.
Now, I should point out that's actually 2013. Where is the remix, bro? Paula, if we could start with you, and I'm fascinated by the fact that there's this Māori raid on that local board. Was this planned, or did it just happen? Did you all just decide to stand at once, or is there some kind of coordination there?
Well, you know, first of all, I wish I had made a video like that, but, you know, and I was thinking about a tune right now. But, no, actually, I was asked to stand in the last elections, but at that time, I didn't feel like I could commit. My little ones were still quite small, and so I really had to weigh up whether, you know, I would do it. This year, Phil Twelford did ask me to stand again, and, you know, I had to really reflect on what that meant and whether I could really commit to serving our community at a local board level. So, and I was really fortunate because Tiaria Fletcher, who works in the community with me, I manage the Community Law Centre out West Auckland, and Tiaria manages WAVES, which is family violence, and we actually talked about it and felt, you know, if there was more than one of us, then, you know, we'd be able to do that and stand collectively.
So you're campaigning together?
Yeah, we are actually. We're part of the Henderson Massey Labour team, and we're supporting one another with our non-Māori candidates as well. So, yeah.
Efeso, you, before you entered local government, you were quite outspoken. You were outspoken to the extent of being fired from 531 PI because you wouldn't back down on certain things you'd said. How has that been now that you're actually the chair of a local board? Have you managed to manage yourself?
Yeah, I think I've managed to manage myself. I probably was very outspoken about the Labour Party as well, so I should address that first. And I was really critical of the Labour Party most recently when they were looking for a leader, and I wrote a blog on the Daily Blog about here we were again going with 4 white men. And I'm really hot on diversity and inclusion, and I think the Labour Party is a party that can count on quite seriously the vote in South Auckland and the vote for from Pacific people. And so I've been very critical of the way in which we've tried to reach that group of people, and I'm still critical within, and they've kept me on. And so there must be something good happening in the party. But I think further to that as well is I was the first in my family to go to university, and we were taught that critical thinking is a good thing. I'm Samoan, I'm the youngest of 6. You don't think critically, if I can use that term. You know, when your parents are asking you or telling you you should be at church, you don't sit there and say, well, actually, we're challenging those theologies at university because their parents won't have it. And so I think that's probably the premise from which I come from, and I think I've done all right, but I will still challenge. I'm still out there today challenging. So I think it's part of my DNA is to challenge.
I'm quite interested in the fact that you connect to the community in any number of different ways. There's through the party, there's through the church. You have a role in your home village. Do those all inform what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's learning how to navigate between all the worlds. And we're fortunate back home in Samoa, they all say, oh, Efeso, you go, your English is best of all of us. You've gone to university. You speak for us. And so you're just managing all those worlds. When the church had it, there was a particular, the whole gay marriage issue that came up. It was hard on Pacific families because there's a part of our community that's saying, yeah, let's go for it. And then there was the older parents who were saying, no, we can't go there. And so they needed someone who could probably facilitate the conversation. I think I played a role. I got criticised for playing the role that I did, but I think our parents needed a bit of a voice. So I try my best to try and navigate the worlds as best as I can.
Peter, I think we first talked after you hit the headlines as the evil man from the council who was going to tear up Chamberlain Park Golf Course. How's that going?
Carve it up, John Campbell said,
Yeah.
Very evil.
Yeah, you managed to get on the wrong side of John Campbell.
It was actually his reporter, but we won't go there. And you were one of the first who actually really got it. My sense, talking to a lot of people and reading the social media is that, people are getting it. Most people, I think, most of the local people in Mount Albert have got it. With all the intensification that we've had, that's planned, with the least amount of open space per capita in the whole region, we really have to plan for the future. So we're not carving it up. There will still be golf. There will be enhanced golf facilities, restoring the stream, playing fields, a whole lot of stuff. People get that we have to do that.
That was actually one of the interesting things when I first talked to you. That was when I first started thinking about the things that local boards had to do. Because basically in that, you were juggling resources.
Yeah.
It's up to you to make sure there's enough playing fields for kids on Saturday mornings. That's one of the things that local boards do, isn't it?
It is, especially in our area, because we also have the least amount of sports field capacity in the whole region as well. So we've been working very hard, and if one of my opponents is watching who says that there's an urgent need to do something about this, we've just spent the last 5 years slaving over it, and we've got as many playing fields as we can possibly have being upgraded or about to be upgraded. So that's what we're doing.
Paula, you're out in Henderson, Massey, which doesn't tend to get the local government headlines. It's usually about what happens in Queen Street. Has the super city been good for the West?
It's interesting you raise that question, because I remember when the super city was proposed and I was actively engaged with my community, trying to inform them what that actually meant for our community and the lack of connection that we would have with the Waitakere City Council. We realised that our voice would not be heard in a super city, and the needs and the aspirations of our community wouldn't be heard as well. And so we were actively out there trying to inform people about what that meant, engage them in that political kind of activism to ensure that West Auckland had a strong voice. And that really has impacted on, people in Auckland Council don't truly understand the needs of West Auckland, and we were really fortunate that we did have that out West Auckland. And in terms of being Māori, we had the taumata runanga that informed the City Council. It meant that Māori voices were being heard in our community, and we lost that. And we've really seen the impact of not having that those decisions at that level and those resources in our community.
So what can you do about it?
Well, that's why I'm standing. I think that, although we're standing for a local board out in Henderson Massey, our team believes that we have a really strong role to play in ensuring that the West is heard in this city and that the needs of our community are taken into consideration. Quite often we hear that, the south side, sorry brother, but a lot of funding is being redistributed out into South Auckland because we believe that's where the need is. When in fact, in West Auckland, we have, high pockets of deprivation out there. We have the highest family violence stats. We have, housing issues that are not being considered at that local level. I know that the local board in Henderson Massey really struggle to deal with the complex issues out there and with the limited resources that we have. So I think that in terms of the reason I stood is that I think we need to be quite strategic in our thinking. We need to be thinking long term, not short term. We don't have the resources to be doing that. And we need to think about more inclusive policies in our community and not punitive ones where we continue to exclude, some of the most vulnerable people in our community.
Efeso, same question. You don't read a lot about Manukau in the New Zealand Herald, do you? What do you do about it?
Yeah, I think what we need is a much stronger voice. Look, Māori and Pacific people in the main don't complain. And I would argue, and I'll probably be putting myself out a bit, but the wealthier areas tend to complain a little bit more. Look at what happened with the unitary plan. And out south, where I'm chair, everyone's saying, oh yeah, it's all right, just go with the 6 stories time, we'll just have that out in Papatoetoe. We need more houses. And so our people tend not to complain, and I guess when you don't complain, you don't have a voice. We've got to turn that thinking around. I don't understand where we get that kind of psychology from. People who, we're a respectful community, and so we try and have our voice through our representatives. I'm interested in the issue of equity of funding, because this isn't council money, but if you look at community trusts and where pokey money comes back, our areas put in all that money, and it's an absolute indictment that we're using these pokey machines. Yet the bulk of that money, if you look at percentages, goes back to Devonport, Takapuna, Albert Eden and Orake. So all of those people in those rich areas are making money from poor areas. Now that's the mismatch here. And so this is about opening up the books a little bit, because everyone's got this idea that South Auckland gets everything. That is not the case at all.
Peter, can I get you to respond to that?
Well, you just have to look at the budgets and the financial reports. Albert Eden Local Board has had the lowest operating expenditure per capita. That's a fact over the last 6 years. Now, that's partly because we don't have any arts facilities. We only have one swimming pool and so on. Partly because of our proximity to the CBD. But, and we haven't had a great deal of capital expenditure either. It bounces around from year to year, but taken over the 6 years, we're in the bottom 3. So the isthmus actually hasn't done well. I would have said that the south, the west and the north have actually done very well at the expense of the isthmus, with the exception of the CBD and Glenninnis, Tamaki and a bit of Onehunga.
Well, let's talk about money, because the centre-right in this election, all the candidates, and actually the Labour candidate Phil Goff, are talking about eliminating waste, talking about controlling spending. What is there to cut? What should be done?
Heaps. Can I just say, firstly, I am sick and tired of these candidates and councillors on the right who jump up and down about little things like bags and so on and then don't do anything. They've had 6 years. The local board chairs actually jumped up and down and thumped the table, and as a result of that I've been on a working party of local board chairs trying to fix the procurement, because the problem's systematic. So there's just about everything council procures it pays too much for, but the system's crap. They don't train or incentivise the staff to negotiate or even, really get into procurement.
So you're saying procurement's the issue rather than the wage bill?
Oh, no, I didn't say it wasn't a wage bill, but no, I would start with procurement first. The wage bill, as a former senior lecturer, I don't know how it is that there are, almost 2,000 people earning at least what a senior lecturer gets, if not an associate professor or higher. On the council, I can't explain that. Look, I talked to a good friend who's a diehard socialist, and he said to me, there's nothing socialist about waste, and I'd like the right-wingers here to take that on board. Which government was it? Managed to land 9 surpluses out of 9 budgets. It wasn't the current one, it was the Labour-led government. Thanks.
Oh, no, you're not actually standing for Labour. Paula, Penny Hulse is the patron of the community law centre that you run. Does that mean she's an ally?
Oh, absolutely, and she's a really strong Westie voice that we are really fortunate to have up on the council. And we're really excited this year because we've got Greg Preslin, who is a social justice lawyer in our community, who is also standing to represent the West. And, I feel really confident with our representatives out that way.
Efeso, the South gets a big say in who's mayor. You've basically delivered the mayor of the last 2 elections. Has that paid off? And how do you make it pay off?
Yeah, I think Len's a nice person, and I've had a good working relationship with him for some time, and that was before I got in. But I think perhaps the South expected a bit more of his ear. And, sure that the South got him over the line twice. He spoke to us after the challenges that he had at the beginning of the term, and he talked to church leaders and South Auckland leaders. But I think even from the beginning of the term, it was going to be a hard term for him anyway, and so that was always going to be the challenge for him. I think what the South needs is a mayor and a council who are firstly going to be genuine in their desire to listen. And I think we've got to do better in the way we actually engage that voice. You look at a local board meeting or even the way council is run, they have this thing called deputation or public forum. That has to be the worst way to reach out to Māori and Pacific communities. These are the people who started coming to my local board and saying, we'll do a deputation. They were the people who were always in the minutes. You never got Māori groups or Pacific groups or young people into the meetings because it was so adversarial. People had a good go at each other. And our young people are coming in thinking, this is not how we speak to each other at school or at church. I don't want anything to do with it. So I think we need a mayor who's going to listen. And we're obviously endorsing Phil Goff. I've made it clear to Phil Goff, I expect him to be out south. I expect him to listen to our church leaders. I expect him to move around our community. And he said, yes, sweet, I'm here. So if he is elected, and the polls are suggesting he will be, I expect that he will do those things.
We have to wrap in a moment, but one thing I found really fascinating in the spin-offs roundup of candidates in the ward you're standing in, Manukau, is that they basically said everyone here is good. And there's, was it 4 Pacific Island candidates standing there?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of leadership out there waiting to be utilised. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair to say. There's 5 of us who are standing. I'm standing alongside Al Filipino under the Labour ticket, but we all know each other. All of us have been through different churches together. We do different community things together. So we all know each other really well. And I hope that what this does is it sets a platform for the rest of Auckland to take a real look at where the real action is happening out in the south in Manukau and say, what can we learn from Manukau that we can explore in other parts of Auckland?
I like that as an ending, actually. Could you thank our panel?
Live on 95.
95.5 on Radio B.